Hey guys, welcome back to Supposedly Fun. I'm Greg. Now, my husband gave me a wonderful gift, which was this t-shirt, which is inspired by one of my all-time favorite children's books, and that gave me the idea to talk to you about some of my favorite books from when I was a child. Not children's books that I read as an adult and love, but books that I loved when I was a child and which made me the reader that I am today. And I got to start with the one that inspired this T-shirt, which was something that my parents read to me. I was really lucky that my parents read to me a lot as a kid. I had and still have a complicated relationship with my mother, but some of these books are things that she specifically read to me, and some of my happiest memories from childhood are my parents reading to me. So, without further ado, let's talk about this one. It's The Owl and the Pussycat by Edward Lear. The edition of it that I have is illustrated by Jan Bright, but that is not the version of it that I had when I was a kid. And this was probably my favorite bedtime story when I was very young, like toddler age to 5. It's just, I love it so much. I don't even know where to begin. And this is now one of my favorite t-shirts because it's got the owl, it's got the pussycat, he's singing to her on a small guitar, they've got their honey, I guess not pictured is the plenty of money wrapped up in a 5-pound note, but specifically the last line of this story, which is, and hand in hand on the edge of the sand, they danced by the light of the moon, the moon, they danced by the light of the moon. That was magical to me when I was a kid, and it really informed my idea of romance and being in love with someone. And I spent my teen years in my early 20s waiting for somebody that I could dance hand in hand with on the edge of the sand. And thank goodness I found him. So that is The Owl and the Pussycat. If you have not read it, I really recommend it. It holds up. I like reading this as an adult, which is why I have a copy of it. It's very sweet. So there you go. And then there are 2 books that I hope I never lose, because I don't think I would ever be able to find copies of them again. The first one is The Boy Who Fooled the Giant. Now, this is one that my mother specifically read to me, and I just love it so much. It's about a boy who lives in a village that is being terrorized by a giant. Look at that great illustration on the cover, by the way. And everyone is afraid of the giant. So the boy says enough is enough, goes off to fight the giant, and basically, in a kind of David and Goliath scenario, he ends up tricking the giant. And it's just, I really loved it because the protagonist is a little boy and he outsmarts the giant. And that really spoke to me. I loved how clever this boy was. I felt like I kind of wanted to be him a little bit. I just loved it. And the other one is The Top of the Pizzas by Bill Basso. And unfortunately, my little sister, as younger siblings will do, drew all over this book. I don't know anybody else who is familiar with this book, but it's about an ogre who makes pizza and loves making pizza. And he loves how happy his pizza makes other people. But he's an ogre, and people are afraid of him. So he gets fired from his job, and he ends up, of course, the discovery is the other people who eat his pizza and decide that they love him for who he is and what he does, not for his outward appearance. That's a really sweet message, and it's a fun way of telling it with the idea of pizza. Some of the illustrations are, when I was a kid, I thought the illustrations were a little gross, but I kind of appreciate them now. I don't know anybody else who has ever seen this book or knows about that it exists, but I absolutely loved it. Another one, this one usually was read to me by my father. It's The Spooky Old Tree, which is a Berenstain Bears book. I loved this book so much. It just kind of counts down. It's like 3 little bears, one with a light, one with a stick, one with a rope, a spooky old tree, and it goes from there. And it's so good. I love it. It was another bedtime story that I really loved. And I can't talk about books I loved as a child without talking about Roald Dahl's Matilda, which you may remember from my all-time favorite books. So, like I said, I was really lucky that my parents read to me. I will always have a special place in my heart for the books that I've already mentioned, but I really think it's Matilda that I can credit with helping cement my status as a lifelong reader. I just loved this book. I read it a lot. I still love this book, and I love its protagonist. She's so great, and I loved all of Roald Dahl's books. Even my little sister, who is not a huge reader, went through a phase where she read every single book by Roald Dahl. Her favorite book of his was the Twits. My heart belongs to Matilda and always will. I also really liked Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the Great Glass Elevator. I actually wrote a short story that shamelessly copied the plot of Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. But I think my mother still has that somewhere. But yeah, no, Roald Dahl is absolutely a reason that I'm a reader today, and Matilda specifically. It just made me love books and the act of reading and the act of sharing what you've read with other people. This one is specifically Christmas related, but I absolutely loved it. And this is something my mother would read to me. It's The Sweet Smell of Christmas. This is a scratch and sniff book. It was reprinted a couple of years ago, and I bought like 10 copies of it because I wanted to have them. I have since given some of those away. I made sure my nieces have a copy of it. I made sure I have a couple of copies in case it goes away. But basically, it's just about this little bear who wakes up and is really excited that Christmas is coming. And as he goes around, he runs into smells that tell him that Christmas is coming. Like, here is an apple pie, and you can scratch and sniff it, and then they go out to find a Christmas tree, and they decorate it, and then you can scratch and sniff the Christmas tree. I think this is why I love Christmas so much, and I get so excited when Christmas is coming because I love this book. Another one. I really thought I had a copy of this, and I don't because it's the night before Christmas. But there's a version of it that I really specifically like, and I need to find a copy and order it to make sure I always have it because it's the version that I really like. There are obviously a lot of different versions from a lot of different illustrators, but this is the one that I like. Part of why I really like it is that it opens and closes with an illustration of a neighborhood, and I wish I had a copy so I could show you that. And my sisters and I would pick which house we would live in. And it does a cross-section of the house in one part, so it looks like a dollhouse. And this is something that my father would read to me. And so he would read us this and the next book that I'm going to talk about, let's get to it. It's The Polar Express, which was another book that is very near and dear to my heart, and is another reason I really love Christmas. And thank you to my older sister, Allison. I have an autographed copy of it. So on Christmas Eve, my father would read to us The Night Before Christmas and The Polar Express, and then he would carry us upstairs to our bedrooms one by one, and he would whisper nice things in our ear, like, think about how happy you are and how exciting it's going to be in the morning when you come down the stairs and Santa has come. And I have such great memories of Christmas because of these books and because of the way my father read them to us and the experience that he gave us of that night. And again, I don't think it's any mistake that these happy memories of my childhood involve books, and here I am talking to you about books. So, there it is. Another book that I did not own a copy of and still love to this day is Harry the Dirty Dog. We had this in my kindergarten class, and I used to read it to myself all the time. And what's funny is, as a child, I did not like dogs. I have 2 dogs now, but I did not like dogs as a kid. But I loved this book because I just thought it was really clever. Love it very much. And another one was Are You My Mother? I used to request this at story time in kindergarten all the time, and the teacher would finally look at me like, Greg, we can't read Are You My Mother every single day. And I'd be like, but I want to. So that's another book that I really liked. And then also as a child, my father read us, me and my sisters, every single one of the Little House on the Prairie books. And it's just something we would do. We would get together and we would all sit around and listen to my father read them to us, and we loved them. He would occasionally insert jokes into the story, things that weren't actually in there. And my sisters thought those were hilarious, and I would get mad because I wanted him to just read the story as it was. I was a little serious as a child. But also I just loved the story. And those are some of my fondest memories as well, sitting around listening to my father read us from the Little House on the Prairie books. My mother used to read to us from a specific copy of The Three Little Kittens, and she would do voices when she read it, and I loved it so much, and I still love it to this day. I always thought it was a really clever story, and we would kind of joke about which kitten we were whenever we read the book. And then there is The Tale of the Two Bad Mice by Beatrix Potter. My father would read this to my sisters and I, and we would howl with laughter pretty much every single time. We would request that he read it, and we would get to the point in the book where the line is, "There was no end to the rage and disappointment of Hunca Munca and Tum Tum," and we would just cry laughing every single time. If you have all of us around and you mention A Tale of Two Bad Mice, we will still talk about it, remember it, and laugh about it. I think those are the good memories that we have around these books. So those are my favorite books from when I was a child. I have a shockingly small number of them in person. But I would love to hear, what are your favorite books from when you were a child? Are these any of yours as well? And as usual, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you are already subscribed, thank you. If you are not subscribed, I hope you enjoyed this enough to hit subscribe or check out some of my other videos. And I will be back again. Until then, happy reading.